Welcome to episode 15 of the Austin Downbeat. I am Kat, your host, and we have a great show for you tonight. And don't adjust your television screen or your computer screen. YouTube is not on the fritz. I'm doing this episode in black and white in honor of our guests today. We're talking to Jane Leo. Before I do, let's do a quick little rundown of who's playing here in Austin, May 31st through June 6th. So to start off tonight, upstairs at the gallery at the Continental Club, two separate times and separately, you have Rosie Flores and also Ephraim Owens. June 4th, you have Beaver Nelson upstairs there at the galley at the Continental Club. June 4th, you have Vallejo at Antone's. June 5th, you have Jim Messina at Hotspot. June 5th, also you have Ula at Saxon Pub. And then reminder, the Kerrville Folk Festival is still going on. That goes on till June 12th. And so many great people are playing that. So if you have a chance to pop out there, please do, because it's from what I hear, it's going really well and it's super fun. Let's get down to the interview for today in black and white. We have Jane Leo. Jane Leo is a relatively new band, although I will say they've been writing for about 3 or 4 years together. Jane Leo is comprised of Jane Ellen Bryant and Daniel Leopold, both from their own separate projects. They came together and they are proof that 1 + 1 = new, because this is a sound unlike anything I think I've ever heard. I don't say that very often. Not only the sound, but the visual too. If you watch their videos, which I'll give you links and stuff to all their stuff. They've really created something special, and it's a testament to who they are as individuals, but also who they are together. And I really, really enjoyed talking to them. They're super down to earth, and they're funny, and they're matching. And it doesn't help that I put this in black and white, so that really looks like they're matching. But I will say their tank tops are 2 different colors, so it wasn't on purpose. Yeah, there's so much to say about them. They have an album that's coming out. They're releasing songs not fast enough, in my opinion, but and then they're doing videos along with them, which is really cool. It's really refreshing for this 80s kid to have a video come along with the song. Anyway, well, I'm not gonna keep chatting any longer. I'm just gonna let you watch my conversation with Jane Ellen Bryant and Daniel Leopold. Jane Leo. Enjoy. Welcome to the show, Jane Leo. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
It's an absolute pleasure. You guys is it fair to say that you're I know you both have been around for a long time, but Jane Leo is fairly young.
Yes. Yeah. We've been writing behind the scenes for I guess almost 3 years or so now, 3 or 4 years, but we've only been putting ourselves out into the public less than a year. So it's new in a lot of ways.
Yeah. How's that feel? Knowing that you've been were you consciously preparing for Jane Leo to kind of be born when it was, or was it just something that you were doing, that you found yourselves doing together, and then it just sort of became something that it is now?
Well, when we first met, we started writing together, and we both were kind of at places with our individual careers where we just needed a kind of a reset and sort of I'd hit a wall a little bit. And so we started dating and writing all at the same time. And it it was a bold move, but we kind of immediately were like, well, yeah, let's treat this like it were like another project. But, it took a long time to get to know each other and to write and to, learn who we were as artists in this new project. And we had gotten finally had some recordings and stuff coming, and we thought we were maybe ready to go out to the world, and then COVID hit. And it was actually it's weird to say, but it was kind of what we needed, was to not go and make ourselves busy. We needed to keep writing and keep honing in on what was happening. And we did that. And yeah, and then when it made sense to finally start putting music out, we had a whole record that was already done. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So you have right now, you have Borderline out, and that was your most recent one. So cool. You have The More You Know, you have Tell Me I'm on Your Mind, and then you have the 2 covers, which are so awesome.
Thanks.
I love it. And so there's more. So you're
Yeah.
slowly releasing.
Yes. We have a whole album that's mixed and mastered, and then we have even newer songs that we've now started to play at live shows and things that
Nice.
now will be on the second record. You know, we're kind of making this up as we go and are fluid to change, but yeah, lots of new material that we're excited about. But we also want to stay with the flow and not have anything hold us back and get things out while it's still inspiring to us. So
Yeah, I love it. What would you call your, not that I want to put you in a box at all, but I'm just, I listen to you guys and it takes me so many different places from, here's what, I mean, I want you to do most of the talking, but like, I feel like it's an attack on so many of my senses. First of all, it just looks like your attention to detail in the art, your videos, the choices of the black and white, what you're wearing, just stylistically, it comes across as being really, really well thought out and intentional. And how does that add? Is that just a culmination of just who you guys are coming together and just what the direction you sort of naturally move in? Or is there a conscious genre that you're trying to create? I don't know that I've ever really seen or heard anyone look or sound like you guys are packaged themselves like you, which is so awesome and refreshing. So talk a little bit about what that looks like behind the scenes. Like, what are the conversations between the two of you? And like, as you sort of art direct the concept of Jane Leo and who you are and how that ties in with your music, because it has to.
yeah.
Yeah. Daniel.
Sure. Well, I mean,
he speaks.
Yeah.
opportunity is endless when it comes to how you portray yourself and how you're inspired and what you choose to reveal as your inspirations. Like, it's a continuous cycle of hunting down what are the next books we read. Are we reading them at the same time, or do we distance ourselves from the same reading list so that we're duly inspired and we're bringing equal amounts to the table? Or we just started reading the same book by accident. Like a couple of weeks ago, we went out of town, and I always get double books for everything I get from the library, because I give one to my daughter to read. It's like The Secret Garden or Wizard of Oz or whatever. We both read at the same time. But in this case, I had 2 of the same book, and Jane grabbed one and I grabbed one, and we left town. We're both reading it. And I was like, I don't think I'm ready for this right now. I'm not ready for this level of whatever.
Everything is synced. So now we can't be reading the same book.
Literally, we own a house together. We share a car most of the time. I mean, it's crazy. Every little aspect. We go to the same gym, same routine, everything. So it's like,
I can't read the same book.
Yeah, reading the same book is a little too much right now.
Boundaries, you two.
Yeah, it's like, this is the last bastion of boundaries that I have. Please respect that. But anyways, back to art direction. It's like, there's no time off. There's 0 time off. We're like, as an artist, it's all encompassing. It's the second you are done writing a song, you're only as good as your next song. And on top of it, then it comes to the production, the playing. We play most of the instruments on the record, and those are also foreign instruments to us. When we started this band, Jane had played piano her whole life, but never synths, So like, that's like that's like an acoustic and electric guitar, totally different instruments. You can be a master at neither, or one or the other. Anyways, so Jane having to learn that, and I started playing bass. I've never played bass in my life, and baritone guitar. It was just all these things we picked up. I've never really sung in harmony. So all these things were totally learning curves. But that being said, we had to reimagine and relearn everything that we thought. We had like focused our careers and our lives in this one direction. And as Jane was saying, then we needed to kind of back down a little bit, reanalyze. And in that time, we started dating. And what better way to really break down those barriers, those boundaries, than date, write songs together, read the same books, all things, start dressing like each other, like
I know this right here. I mean, you too. I just want to reach through and squeeze you. You're so adorable. Oh my God. I cannot wait to come to one of your shows.
This wasn't even intentional. And now you mentioned
Yeah,
it.
we are matching.
We have
Shit.
big tank tops.
Yeah, God.
We can put a black and white filter over it. And then...
Well, yeah, I mean, it all was very intentional. And I think with Leopold and his fiction, he was so involved in the art direction in every aspect of his career. And I was the same way. So we really bonded over that. And in the process of needing to recreate ourselves, it was a really nice opportunity to start from the beginning. Like there wasn't random internet shit floating around of this project anywhere. It was like, we get to come out and finally do something consistent, which is something I really struggled with as a solo artist. I wrote so many types of songs and explored with so many genres that it was very confusing to know what you were going to get from Jano and Bryant.
Right. Which is, unfortunately, I mean, that's kind of a part of it. Like the people sort of need to, it's like you do kind of have to fit a bit in a box, but you just want to make that box as big as possible.
As exciting as possible. But, so we've tried to blend, it is like, we've just called ourselves neon noir, which we don't really know exactly what that means, but it makes sense to us with our like influence of like these like French films and the black and white, like old Hollywood vibe with this like flair of new and the digital 808s. And so that's what we were calling it. But it has a lot of different old and new artists that we were inspired by and we took, direction from. So it's somewhere in that alternative rock pop genre, but we've coined it as neon noir.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you coined that. I have that written down and I was like, I need to add, is that them saying that that's what they are? Because I like the connotation. I like the visual that comes up, especially for my generation. I don't know how old you guys are, but like I'm an 80s kid, like, and puberty, I was in the 80s. So like, all of that, had parachute pants and tried to break dance and just, that neon and all of that. So the synthesizers and like I was saying earlier, when I'm listening to your music and certainly when I'm watching a video, like you just make me feel lots of things. What I'm seeing, I'm kind of pulling it all together and watching, and what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, they fit, but that you wouldn't think that they would fit, or you know what I mean? It's like you are carving a new genre in a way, which
it's like a similar thing happened with Leopold as well. It's like, I'm from Detroit, so instantly it was like, oh, it's this White Stripes thing, but it's not. It's this other thing, and no, it's this other thing. And then every time it was like a commodity, everyone who's in charge, the gatekeepers of this musical fashion and world, they're like, it's so close, but I just don't know what to do with it. And I was like, hey, I'm sorry, I don't necessarily need Jay nor I are like out to write songs that are going to be in the top 40. But what's really funny is that those are the songs that kind of, I came up listening to the Black Keys and the White Stripes and the Yeah Yeahs, and there was like a global sound that they shared, a kind of like, they call it lo-fi, whatever you want to call it, but they stuck to their guns on those first few albums. They were like, we're not going to deviate from this. This is what we sound like. This is what we record in our basement, we record in our garage, we record at home, whatever. And all of a sudden, the tide turned, and these are the top 40 songs that are out there, just because they're so real and they stuck to it and they weren't backing down from it, and the conviction and the determination. And that's how I always seen my career and now our career, is that like, we're going to write the songs that come to us. We can consult with the outside because, we didn't invent the wheel, and we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to do what comes naturally. And obviously collaboration sometimes spawns the best. I mean, just between us, it spawns such a awesome, beautiful thing. So we don't like close ourselves off to the world, but at the same time, it's you have to put up your blinders, so to say, and with the blinders up, it starts creating something that you don't hear everywhere. And I think that's part of what you're mentioning.
Yeah, I was just interviewing a little bit ago. Do you know Ian Moore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Backgrounds for him.
Yeah. So Yeah, I was just talking to him, and he finds himself these days mentoring people, and sometimes formally in a workshop, songwriting workshops, and then sometimes just after shows having conversations. And he was touching on that. And it just brings up the question of like, it's such a balance, because as artists, the payoff has to be enough that you can survive, just logistically, obviously. Yeah. But the payoff also has to be what you just said, Daniel, like that beautiful experience that you have with Jane. Like, if that also has to be enough at the end of the day, like bills get paid and you get to have this really beautiful experience within your four walls. Everything else, I guess, is icing. I mean, at the end of the day, kind of like that has to be the root of it all, because otherwise you do find yourself straying away. And this is what Ian was telling me, is like the advice he gives to people is, once you compromise who you are and what you want to be doing as an artist and what you want to say and how you want to say it, once you give that away, you're fucked.
Yeah.
There's
nothing really left, because
Yeah.
after the creation, it's out of your hands if people receive it, or if
Right.
God forbid, a great label signs you, whatever it is, then you lose all say. Is like, well, not all say, you get what I mean. You're at the whim of a lot of other opinions and voices, and as long as you're true to yourself in the creative, like you're saying, four walls, then goes a long way.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think in this, the music business has changed obviously drastically over the decades, and you would think that it would be now easier than ever to just be who you are, put out what you're supposed to put out, and because it's just so easy, and it is logistically easy, right? I mean, I'm doing this from a home studio, you know what I mean? So it's like, this isn't, it can look like it's woohoo, but but still, I think artists these days, I think because it's so easy, maybe don't stay tethered to that, what we're talking about, and that intention of who you are, and that integrity of what is that spark inside of you, that you got to say.
I think so much of it, now that you're saying that, like, it has to do with our phones, I think. Like, just the fact that you can pick up at any second in time and see what someone else is doing, what their artistry is, what they sound like, what that thing was trending, whatever it is, it like makes you think you need to
go there,
that, whereas like I would imagine before those days that, like, to be inspired, you had to go pick up a record and like listen to it, or go to a show and listen to it, and be there really present. And like, of course those things are going to influence you, but not in the same way that this like cheap, like constant thing is. And it's just, I noticed the difference so much for myself when I like put it away and like finally log out of things for a couple of days, and then I start having ideas and things that are like actually feel like my own, and not this like panicked idea of like, I think I should be doing this or sounding like this or whatever. But it's so hard. But I think it's also why so much of today's music just sounds the same, because it's like, it is so easy to make, and it all is so cheap, and it's not all analog anymore, so there are great things to that, and then there are not so great. Like, it will be interesting to see, if I had a time machine, you could look back like 50 years ahead from now and look back to now, like what would stand the test of time, what would be something that people were maybe still talking about.
Yeah, and I think in one respect to that is and one of the reasons I love having conversations like this with people, and why I think it's so important that we're having the conversation we're having, is because this is the stuff that stands the test of time. This is the truth. The truth stands. And when you do something the long way, the hard way, the right way, you put your phone away, you sink in, you take a couple days to sink into who you are again. That's the kind of stuff that stands the test of time. That's what I teach my kids. They hate me sometimes because I make them do stuff the long way, which feels the hard way, but that's how you protect that future 50 years from now. And then you still have a society that does things with integrity and intention, So it applies in music as well. Yeah, that's awesome. One of the first things I wrote down when I was prepping for you guys is new band, lots of possibility. and how good that must feel. And so funny to hear you say that a couple minutes ago, because if I were sitting where you are sitting, I would be like, wow, babe, like, what do you want it to look like? You know? Do you have like meetings about it? I mean, how do you guys separate?
You're definitely putting like a really nice filter over what those meetings are like.
There's no off the clock though. I mean,
none.
We raised my daughter, she's turning 11 this year, and we split, her time is split between this house and her mother's house, and so we'll be full on like 24 hours a day. I'm waking Jane up. What have we got to do this, and this, and then Ava comes over here and she's right in the throw of it, and we have to remind ourselves, okay, be present, let's do this. But the second she goes to bed, it's like, so the picture of all of it's like nonstop. But I couldn't have it any other way. And that's not everyone, but a lot of people work at that caliber of attention. But as Jane was just saying, it's so drained by constant screen time and everything else, and feeling like you need to always be somewhere else when we're right here and like I'm with who I'm supposed to be with. So it's like not like, okay, I'm at like again with Leopold, we'd be at rehearsal and we used to rehearse like insane hours, 5 to 6 hour days, 5 to 6 days a week. But at the end, I was always like, okay, guys, let's run the set one more time. Let's do this thing. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? We've been here all day. We got wives, we got things to go do. And it'd be like, all right, suit yourself, see if I care. And, and I'd stay there for another couple hours here. And that's like, literally our entire life is based on rehearsals, writing, raising a daughter, but shows, it's a beautiful place to be. I feel like it's like what I've always strived to want. It's here. And that's a really great place to recognize, being there. It's so easy, like, hills and peaks and valleys always, but like I look back and be like, man, my favorite time was when we rehearsed for 2 weeks straight, went on tour for 2 months, came home, had a week off, and then recorded an album. And every time I look back, I'm most excited about when there was no downtime. There was no like, oh, I need to be somewhere else, or I need to be with someone else, or I'm missing this, or I feel guilty because this. It's like all in, blinders on, and go for it. And I don't even know how I got on this tangent. And that's exactly how we live our entire life. We just run. I run with tangents all the time, and Jane has a very dedicated list of like, we need to talk about this.
Well, that's what you brought up. It's like, what are your possibilities discussions?
And this is it.
They go on a lot of different things. But the hardest part is knowing like there is so much possibility and so many things I want to do with this and that. And it is like breaking it down into small tasks that actually get to the thing.
Yeah. Do you have a whiteboard? I love to whiteboard stuff.
We have a whiteboard that's like got 2 weeks worth of date, like calendar on it. And then like the side of it is like big goals and then like 6-month goals,
it's color coordinated.
It's a whole thing.
But I love it. That's my style.
Yeah. It's great, but it's, like, how do you, like I said, okay, I want to be a touring artist making a, full living with syncs and stuff. Okay, yeah, that's great. How does that actually happen?
Well,
thinking backwards, and who do I need to meet, and who do I don't know. Well, like it's not like other jobs and things that, like to get from point A to point B to get that raise or whatever, like you need to make this many sales or do this, there is no roadmap. And there's a million ways that you can be successful at this. Like there's so many ways, like there is no right or wrong, it's just what's right for us and what's like sustainable, so those meetings are constantly in our life, and constant stressors and excitement, and, as it is for any, self-employed person, like making a living out of their creative endeavors, is a lot of highs and a lot of fears,
Oh yeah, for sure. I think what helps me is like, I have a saying like, clear is kind. And I always come back to like writing down what is true. I love coming back to this thing of like, all right, let's just write down what's true for me and what I want, and just getting really, really clear. And you can have these big goals, but it's all just about the next decision that you have to make.
Yeah.
one after another after another. And you can make plans, and we should make plans, and we should map things out, and we should create that vision and manifest and do all those things. And at the same time, in the same breath, I find myself also saying, it could all, I could be gone tomorrow. Like none of it matters. You know what I mean? It's just such a paradox.
It's crazy when something like that snaps you into perspective, like whether it be a family member getting sick or someone like dying in the music industry.
Which is happening. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Then it's suddenly like, wait a second. Like I shouldn't be thinking about, I mean, I should, of course, be striving for my goals, but like how awesome it is to recognize that today I got to sing all day with my partner, and my life is this. Like, let's be present. And we've been talking about that a lot, of like what our intention is going to, even just any event that we're going to go hang out at or whatever, like what's our intention in doing this, and like how do we be present to like get that need met, and not just like walk around like this and miss it all. It's so easy to miss what's right in front of you, and then you can't really appreciate that, none of us know how many days we have left, but it would be really great to enjoy the ones that we are living.
Yeah. I think gratefulness comes into play a lot for me. Like I do the same things. I get when I am somewhere out, I get a little bit of social anxiety. So that alone will kind of throw me, and I'll like, but if I stay really intentional about like what I'm grateful for in that moment, and connecting with the people that I do know, and really stepping outside my ego, and never ever, especially with this show, like talking to you guys is not about me. I really genuinely have, before you come on, I have to remind myself even out loud, just so I really sit in that pocket of stepping outside any shred of ego.
Yeah.
That this is about Jane and Daniel, and I am genuinely curious about who you guys are and what you're up to, and it's all for you. It really is. It's just for you. And so those types of things help me when I'm out or when I'm doing something like this, and I don't want to miss it. I want to be 100% here. And so I have to remind myself, I'm super grateful for creating this platform and being able to talk to people like you and see these like nuggets of value for what you guys are doing in your life, because people watch this and they could be trying to make a big decision, like you guys, like Jane, like Jamie was talking about, when you quit your job. Mm-hmm. And what an inspiration that was, like life-changing inspiration for her, just watching you do that and watching you hone your craft and branch out with Jane Leo and put on the leotard and play the synthesizer and really come into your own. And you are like, to watch you is just like, wow, she really is going for it. She is really stepping into every fiber of who she is. That's so inspiring. Thank you. I was really glad that she mentioned it. I was like, I don't think she didn't know right away that I was talking to you guys a couple days ago. So,
I made me really happy today seeing that. And Jamie's just the sweetest, most, I mean, I could say all the same things about living with her, what it did for me as a writer, as just a person. I mean, she works harder than anyone I know. And she also is the first to lift up others in every scenario, and like was out supporting all of her friends' shows and so quick to like give them opportunities and elevate them whenever. And that's like a class act. I mean, there are just not many people like that in the world at all. And she's the real deal. She does all the real work. She's the real folk singer, like that. She's thought about it. She's so much intention behind everything that she does. And we just really we didn't know each other when we moved in together, and it was like,
oh wow,
the craziest universe thing, dropping us into like, you kind of know, met once, I need a roommate, okay, and it was awesome. And we both met our partners at the same time, and it was just like this great like split to whatever was next. But I really like that you just said that, like about how just the idea that when someone's really living their true purpose or coming into themselves, like what that does for others to see. Because I've many times been so inspired by others, just seeing like the possibility that they could like be that brave or pursue that thing or make a video like that or whatever. And it makes me think about, oh, what's my biggest possibility, or what's the crazy thing I could try, And I think that's what art is and what the purpose of it is. And when you ever like feel like, because I had to ask myself just the other day, like, okay, what's my why behind this? Like,
Yeah.
so easy to like forget what the importance of it is when you're in the midst of it. But when I think about things like that, then I'm like, well, yeah, so yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's so funny when you can just ask yourself a question like that, like, why am I doing this? And then it just goes straight down to like the clearest point. And then it's like, well, okay, well, that's all the permission I needed. Now the doors are wide open and I can do whatever the fuck I want. And
moving on to
yeah, it's so fantastic. I love it. So, where did you find that leotard? Speaking of, I genuinely am curious. Again, child of the 80s and 90s, like what made you do? I'm just obsessed with people with fashion and, I don't really love the mainstream. I don't like people it's not that I don't like people that dress like everybody else, but I really, really like people that don't dress like everybody else, really stick out to me. And so can you talk a little bit about the leotard? Because it would be silly if we didn't.
I'm going to interject a little bit. So on our Jane moved in 5 years ago-ish, and down the street that we used to live on was a photographer that I work with all the time. Her name's Erin Brooks. She's local to Austin. And she's set designer, fashion stylist, all this stuff. She has four boys that are all between 0 and 10. And it's just a madhouse over there. It's amazing. The energy is so artistic and so beautiful. And her husband's a touring musician. The whole thing is just a 8-ring circus at all times. Dogs, cats, everything is going on over there. And at any time of day or night, I can text her and just be like, I hope everything's cool. She's like, yeah, I'm working on this piece of art, blah, 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 whatever. So the early stages of Jane Leo, I was like, you know what? Let's ditch our closets and walk down the street and see what Erin can do. Because she's also, brilliant photographer. And she did the album cover for Leopold and all this. So we just went down there and she just started shooting loosely and getting our angles and all this stuff. And we had already worked together, Erin and I. So like, I was trying to put Jane in front of people that I trusted their eyes, so I could essentially look back and get perspective. Okay, like this is what public might see, or someone that isn't dating her will see different sides and all this. So we went to my tour manager, Steve Alcala. He's a phenomenal photographer, best friend of ours now, and Erin as well. And these are two people in the industry who have amazing imagination, amazing talent. So to put Jane in front of them was like kind of in a weird way, me standing in front of a mirror and being like, what can I do? What can I change? I want a different hairstyle, whatever. But like through, like, again, a third perspective. And so Erin has a warehouse full of vintage clothing dating from the 20s all the way up until I swear futuristic stuff in there, like literally like spaceman suits and like just like everything. So she went with Jane there and she literally dove into it because there's
9 months pregnant.
You can't even get into it just walking. You have to like dive over the clothes. So she dove in and pulled out like a million pieces of clothing, came out and just started like, dressing Jane and all this stuff. And it was like a 2-day process, like yes, no, cool, maybe.
Learned a lot through.
Learned so much, but what we came down to is like, okay, vintage works with Jane. It's just a vintage looking human, And so we got all these editorial looking pieces together, all this clothing, and I'll be in a suit or a tuxedo, whatever it is, just like, again, classic styles, like but what I found with this project was that mine kept getting simpler and simpler each time, and Jane would be more and more extravagant. We were like, oh wow, this is so awesome, so great. Granted, we didn't have to play any shows for 2 years, so we're like, we can go crazy.
Yeah,
this
I can
is
wear
amazing.
this big hat
for sure.
All these things.
And then all of a sudden, our first couple of shows are coming up, and it's like, oh, wait, we need to reinvent this entire thing because you can't wear pencil skirts and blah 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 on stage. And so, next thing you know, we're watching with my daughter old Elvis movies and Bye Bye Birdie and all these things. What does that have in common? And Margaret, over and over again, and
Yeah.
Margaret. And, you know.
Yeah, I'll take it from there. Is like, I had all this development in our pictures and everything for years with Aaron and Daniel's, and been a huge help of like all fashion things. But I needed something that I could see myself like feeling really confident in and move in, but that still had that vintage look on stage. And like, that was like the most overwhelming, like, what do you do? You know, but Anne Margaret, there's this clip of her dancing with, I forget which movie it was, but dancing with Elvis, and she's wearing these like leggings and a sweater. And the leggings are not, it's not a leotard, but it's like the leggings are not made the same way that leggings are made now. It's like basically it was tights, but there was no, like, it was very attractive that it was just like, whoa, she's like really tight form down here, but then she has this like casual classy sweater on and she's dancing, you know. And immediately it was like, wait, I need that. But I couldn't find those exact leggings that weren't like completely see-through, you know. So the leotard it's freaking Spanx. That's all it is, with like really like dark tights that I found, and like tried to get something that was like as blended as it could, and like well forming, fitting. And then this sweater I found that just like looked the right thing. It is like literally from some random like cheap sweater I got at the mall, like literally it's so random, but it tied it all together with the black and white. And like I have these old dance shoes that I wear every time, like character shoes, and it looks very like
high fashion,
50s high fashion, like Anne Margaret, you know. It's like this classic but sexy thing. But I have been able to, by wearing that same fucking outfit every show, that sweater is crusty now, but that same outfit has really like,
it's a brand.
Yeah, it's gotten me into a mindset and a character every time I put it on. I know like, oh, I'm this person now. And I'm now trying to figure out, how do I become that person in my day-to-day life? Like what does that person off of stage wear and like walk around in? And
make decisions from that place. Yeah.
So that's my next goal. And I don't, because I like look at my closet and I'm like, this doesn't match that girl on stage that I'm like so identifying with. And, you know, so it's like all a journey, but that's where the leotard tights and Margaret story, that's where it all came from.
I love it. I think they just did a piece on her on like, I love CBS Sunday mornings with the trumpet. And I don't know if you watch that. Yeah. Anyway, they did a piece on her, and I saw some clips like that, and I was like, fuck, she was so gorgeous and hot in their body, and just the dancing. And so I love that it's her.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You could probably have someone on Etsy like make you. I would probably go to Etsy and like see if you can find some old sweaters like that, or I'm sure someone can make you a sweater.
Yeah, the sweaters are not as hard as the pants. So what I wanted was like those like leggings, but they're basically just tights. But when she doesn't look like you see her ass when she bends over in those tights, but yet they're like I don't know. Because tights now, you know, have like all the lines and the things, but you know, it's just too many. It doesn't look like that. So but that was my makeshift version of it. And
it's a makeshift until we make it, and then people will be knocking on your door saying,
you're like the prototype, but you know.
Yeah.
Well, I know Beyonce, couple things we can take away from Miss Beyonce. Number one, you need to name that person that's on stage if you haven't already. So we need to give her a name, and like Sasha Fierce for Beyonce.
Yeah.
And then you just need to like put that up there and then start defining, okay, well, who, you know, whatever you name her, and then like just describe her like she's a character. And then you can start to put like qualities around her, and then slowly start to build that person out for you in real life. And then the second thing is Beyonce, I think she wears like 4 pair of pantyhose when she performs.
I wouldn't be surprised.
She does. Yeah. She wears a lot of, so maybe those are your tights. Maybe you're wearing like 5 pair of tights.
Yeah. I mean, that might be what Anne Margaret did. It's just layered it up, you know.
That's what I was thinking, is like, that might be, because I mean, back then it's not like they had super high tech fabric like we do now.
Yeah, it's just funny that I'm back to wearing tights. I grew up as a dancer, and I would wear those tights all damn day, and they'd start to like, like make my lungs. They were like just too tight, and I couldn't breathe. And now I'm back into like, oh god, I have my dance outfit again, and I'm like, I can't wear this for too long. It's great when I'm on stage, but then when you're sitting in the car with it on and stuff, you just like,
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about what do you have going on? Shows, where can we find you? And how can people support you? Like, what's the best way? I always love to talk about support. I think it's really, obviously one of the intentions of this show is for people to be able to support the people that they love. So tell us how we can support you best. And then also, as we have to wrap it up soon, talk a little bit about any shows that are coming up and where people can actually come see it.
Yeah. I think the best way to support, like if just a simple follow on Instagram and sharing and like coming out to shows, that's huge. Listening on all the streaming platforms and adding it to your playlist, like those are all like free ways to really support like new artists that need those numbers and need faces, and that's huge. And we also do have a Patreon that we launched in the pandemic before we had put any music out, as like a way to just let people know we were a band and come over there to hear stuff before it was out. And it's evolved as we've started actually putting music out. But it's still a place where we post things first. And, it's really just become a place where if people are interested in financially supporting, they can do that. And it's like a huge help.
Love it.
As for shows, we have the Austin Music Revival Festival that's happening on May 29th at Empire. And that's like a deal where you buy a ticket for Saturday and Sunday, and you get to see tons of bands over on that Sunday. And then, yeah, that's, we're also playing Peggy's Porch Party, like a house party on the 22nd of May. And yeah, we're in the process of figuring out what our like summer show schedules and stuff look like, but that's what we have coming up this month. And we're going back into the studio, and yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'll definitely push those events, and I'm going to try to get my butt down there and see you guys live.
Yeah,
that'd be so much fun. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I really super excited about, you guys have a lot of buzz going about you, and I'm going to add to it. I love what you're doing, and I love even more just now knowing kind of what's underneath it and behind the scenes on it. You guys are really, I can just tell through the screen, you're really good human beings, and you're really good to each other. And I'm just really excited for you both. So I wish you both tons of success, and I will do my part in helping to.
Thank you. This is really great, and so great to be a part of your show and everything that you're doing. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. All right, you two twins.
Yeah.
Go read your book.
That's right.
Can you say what book it is that you're reading?
It's a Lenny Bruce. Lenny Bruce, the comedian, is one of his autobiography.
Okay.
And
it's a random choice, but yeah, I had to stop reading it because we couldn't both.
No, I had to ask. I actually had to demand. I don't demand a lot. I was like, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this.
Daniel put his foot down.
With Lenny Bruce, he's such a character in himself that it's like, I don't know, I'm territorial right now about that. So
I love that you can just say that this is how, it's very refreshing to have a man just be like, this is what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, welcome.
Well,
yeah.
There's no shortage of that.
Yeah.
You must be Italian. Are you Italian?
Yeah.
Okay.
Detroit Italian energy at all times. He's gonna tell you exactly what he thinks, and I am from the opposite of like, so I've learned a lot.
I love this for you guys. You guys are so good for each other. I love it. All right, you guys. Thanks so much for stopping by the show. Keep in touch with the Austin Downbeat to be sure you know where Jane Leo is playing next. And until then, we'll see you on the flip side.